Yeah, you sounded pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you. So the meeting is due to start to I think less than a minute now. So
it's what, 5:30 your time right now?
Yes. So good day, Bryan Pratte. I do hope I called the name correctly.
Yeah, you got it perfect.
So it's nice to meet you, and it's nice to have you on this platform. We're really grateful for such a wonderful opportunity to be having this discussion with you, this fireside chat. It's for me, having gone through your profile, your bio on LinkedIn, I was very excited to meet you because I do believe I would learn a lot from you today. So yeah, so before we proceed, I would like to, ask. My name is Paul Ndibe. I'm an Android developer, a native Android developer of Kotlin. I would like to, briefly ask Treasure to, before we proceed, to help me, introduce some of our fellow devs who will be joining us today. So, Treasure, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you briefly help me, just introduce some of my fellow devs? Hello, Treasure, are you there? Hello? Okay, so welcome everyone. Bryan is the CEO and the founder of Quarkworks down in USA, Francisco Bay. Before we proceed, I don't know if maybe Treasure you're there. I don't know if you could hear me.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the video is coming up. Just a brief introduction to some of my colleagues and some of my friends down there. Hello? I don't think the video is audible.
Yeah, I don't know if you can port the audio over.
Yeah, I think the next person. Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ifeanyiwa Onoka. I graduated from the University of Benin with a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. I'm an Android engineer and I have great passion for Android development. This started during my final year in university when I was asked to build an Android application for the first time. And since then, I knew I was going to be an Android engineer. Technology has made the world better through bright minds who have used their passion for technology to create programs that help every day. I aim to be one of such bright minds. I aim to be able to create Android applications that will help take humanity forward. I'm known to be a highly organized, detail-oriented team player, as tasks that I am involved in are done to high quality standards. Because I believe in the saying that whatever I need to do it and properly. When I'm not programming, I love to play games. I also love to read novels. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is David Olugna. I graduated from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, where I bagged a bachelor degree in industrial chemistry. I am a full stack developer. I'm passionate about what I do. I use .NET framework to build backend services and React to build great user interface and interaction. I am a deep thinker and love to solve problems. When I am not programming, I love watching mind-stimulating movies and playing football. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Hello, good day. My name is Diana Ikweri, a graduate of Petroleum Engineering from Niger Delta University.
I've always been intrigued about software engineering, and after my service here, I started my journey towards becoming a software engineer by learning JavaScript. I'm currently a .NET developer who is wholly committed to building software applications in the most ingenious and structured manner possible. I'm a fast learner, a highly motivated individual, and an active team player. And I love the fact that I'm gradually living my dreams. To get unstuck and re-stressed, I play games and listen to music. Thank you so much for your time, and do have a great day.
Hi, my name is Koma, and I graduated from the University of Quarkworks with a bachelor's degree in mathematics and statistics. I fell in love with programming when I first heard about the story of Philip Emeagwali and what he had achieved in the field of programming and computer science in general. And I was inspired, and this inspiration led me to where I am today. And I'm excited to say that I am a Java developer as a result. When I'm not programming or learning new technology, I find myself playing football or watching football. And I am excited about this programming career and where it's taking me to. And it's nice meeting you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shogun Husseini, a software developer at Dekagun, an Android developer. I have a BSc in computer science from the Federal University of Agriculture. I'm passionate about products and people. I've always been curious about computers and computer programs since I was a kid. I derive satisfaction from solving problems. What I mean is, I want the things I build to actually help people. I'm a very creative person. I am a team player. I enjoy working with other people. I take ownership of any project I'm involved in because I believe whatever I work on is an extension of who I am. I am passionate about good user experience. I like to play the piano or write whenever I'm not coding. It is nice to meet you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hope Mori. I am an Android engineer. So I have my bachelor's degree in microbiology, University of Benin. What I want to take first is my love for innovativeness. So I like to try new things. I like to open up new ground, try new stuff, and also being part of a community where we prefer solutions to problems using tech-driven ideas. And also have a very inquisitive mind. I like to reason things are critical in defining or in providing solutions to situations or problems. Personally, I believe that as a team player, we can achieve a whole lot more together than we could ever have done before. And our intellect also, I'm of the opinion that our intellect should get towards making life better for people. And then part of my hobbies are I like to read basically. I like to read mostly sci-fi and books. Some of my best authors are Lukaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I also love music, genres like classical and jazz music. So we'll check anything that you do. Thank you.
You know, it's kind of cool. Quite a few of those candidates have a background in engineering and at least in math, and at least one has a background in electrical engineering, which is
we will start
cool.
To set up a tracking service that will later track the user's location. We won't finish this service class.
Yes, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
yeah.
Treasure, for playing those videos, and I believe you've seen some of the very exciting devs we have here who are very excited to be with you today. So sorry, you were about to say something. Sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, no problem. I was just saying that's how I got my start. I have an electrical engineering degree, and then I got into software later. So it's a little more roundabout way of doing it, but you know, it's a good way to do it, I think.
Yes. Bryan, it's nice to meet you once again, and thanks for the opportunity. So would like you to briefly introduce yourself to us, tell us who Bryan is. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So my name is Bryan Pratte. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of a company called Quarkworks. been around for about 8 years. We started in the Midwest while I was actually in grad school for electrical engineering. And then we slowly sort of worked our way out to the West, to the San Francisco Bay Area, and started working with a bunch of different tech companies. A lot of my identity is wrapped up in the company. That's pretty much all I care about. I mean, until I got married, and then I had my daughter, and then my wife and my daughter are there, and then there's Quarkworks. But yeah, we do a lot of like technical projects, anywhere from like native Android, native iOS, front and back end, lots of machine learning lately. And then I'm really excited to sort of, we've got some internal projects that we're building out that are for our own instead of for clients. And so I'm really excited to like get those pushed out and launched. But yeah, that's a brief overview of me. But yes, I live in San Francisco right now, but most of our company is still located back in Missouri.
Well, that's nice to know. So at Quarkworks, so going through your LinkedIn profile, I also saw that you more like help startups to get their product to the market, right? So can you basically just tell us how that process goes? Is it, what does it really mean? Like you approach companies, you build software for them, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you all know this, right? Because you're in the consulting business. When you first start out, it's hard, because you don't have the reputation, right? I'd say consulting is all about your reputation that you've built up over time. And you're not just selling software or development hours. What you're doing is you're selling risk management. So companies come to you when they're like, they know that statistically you have a higher probability of being able to launch that software at a high level than other companies. And they only do that with us these days because we have such a long record. In the early days, nobody would touch us, right? Because we were just a bunch of like young kids, in a dark office, with laptops trying to like, sell software services. And, it was a year of just like doing meetings and people saying, no, you're too young. But I'd say that was more of like what happened a lot in the Midwest. But as we went further out west, and especially in the Bay Area, they're used to young people writing software. And a lot of people saw what we were doing and they're like, this absolutely is the future. Mobile is the future. We should be investing in that. A lot of times, there's a couple different companies that come to us, right? So probably more on track with your original question. There's companies that have an existing product and there's a new feature that they need to accelerate. And so we'll come in and we'll just work alongside their engineers and help them get that feature out. There's other companies that maybe they hit traction really early. It's maybe a team size of 10. They've got iOS that's really blowing up. We do a lot of work with social companies in the early days. And they realize, hey, I need Android. And so we'll jump in and we'll try and get Android to market as fast as possible. And then there's like the really early companies that we do every once in a while, where they have an idea, they maybe have some designs, and we'll help guide them through the process of getting it to market from day zero to launch.
Wow. That's a lot. So, starting out young, being a young CEO and, having that, great number of people, rejection, it takes a lot to continue. It takes a lot to kind of stay and, remain. Some people could have just, easily given up and, look for other career path. So
yes,
look for other opportunities, look for opportunities somewhere else. So what basically was driving force? What really was driving your passion? Because you really stayed and here you are. Here you are
we haven't made it yet. We still have a long way to go, but we're able to make payroll these days, right? Without, paying people in bonuses back in the day. It's a good question, right? Because, when you're starting your company, everybody's like, get a real job, right? Go work in a real industry. I can't tell you the number of like girlfriends that were just left me because all I did was like work, and they were like, hey, it's time to get a real job, right? And I was like, no. I don't know. Tenacity, persistence. I'm stubborn. I hate to give up. You know, I should have probably done things a little bit differently if looking back. But at the end of honestly, at the end of the day, it's not about being successful or, you know, you got to make enough money, but it's like, we truly love working with these companies. And I love building this tech, right? There's no better feeling in the world than like figuring out really hard problems and getting something to market and launching it, and then seeing users in the wild using your software, right? And that, I love that. That's the thing that drives me forward. You know, it's like we added it up like the other day. There's probably over 150 million downloads of apps that we've written, you know,
Wow.
From the first line of code. Isn't that nuts? Right?
That's a huge success.
I know, right?
It's huge. Yeah. I consider that a huge success.
I wish I had invested in these companies instead of billing them. That would have been better.
Yeah, but you're doing very well. I consider your position as a huge success. Right? You know, having to come all the way you came, like the tenacity it took you to, you know, stay, and then having not giving up, you know, even though, you know, people will be like, okay, why don't you get a real job? I think you did say to some of your friends, your girlfriend, you know, be like, oh, man, you should get a real job, and you still stuck there. I think you're doing very well.
doing okay. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
There's more to do for sure.
Of course, there's always more to do. And, you know, I'm really learning a lot, considering the fact that I also have, I have a desire to be a CEO of my own company tomorrow.
Good.
It's one of the things that excites me about, you know, having to, you know, meet a great person like you. So my next question would be, you know, who would you say is the person that's impacted you the most throughout your career or your personal life, and who was the person and how it's really, you know, impacted you?
That's a good question. There's two. One is my grandfather, who is like a role model of mine. You know, he got his PhD in electrical engineering, and he like worked at Martin Marietta and Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and like helped like do launch trajectories for satellites. And it was just cool. And back in the day, the electrical engineering, they were the rock stars of technology. You know, today it's computer science, right? It's, if you're a programmer, you're a rock star. But that's where I really got my love of, you know, engineering. You know, my father was an engineer too, and so I was steeped in that. But I would honestly say that there's one person that probably impacted me the most, and you know, it's this crazy thing. You know, it's like there was a time when I was dropped out of school and I was trying to make money and saving up to get back into school. And, you know, I was out for 3 years working like construction jobs, like just complete shit work. Right. And I got my first job that I wasn't swinging a hammer, you know, selling, you know, computer software at Circuit City. And this guy walks in and I start talking to him, and, you know, he's a CEO of his own company. And on the side, I'd just been doing 3D animation, right? Because I was interested in it. I got to talking to him about it. He's like, huh, you shouldn't be here in Circuit City. You need to be working with me. Why aren't you in school? Why aren't you working with me? I was like, well, I can't afford it. And he's like, here's my card. Come to see me. I'll give you a job and pay you enough to get you into school, you know?
Wow.
And, you know, I showed up, you know, and he took a risk on me, and, you know, he paid me enough. I could make the tuition every semester, you know, and it was a stable job. You know, I'd do school full time and work 30 hours a week on top of that. But he gave me the shot, right? And then if it wasn't for him, I don't think I'd ever gone back to school, which means I never would have like had the flexibility and free time to start Quarkworks. So I'd say that guy, 100%, I owe everything to. I do.
It's really nice to have someone, you know, look at you and, you know, take a risk on you, look at you and, you know, show some value. Sometimes some people don't get.
That's the thing. I think we all have to take a risk on people, right? Everybody's trying to optimize and find the perfect person, but you got to take a risk. You know, sometimes you're going to lose, but if you really want to pay things forward, you find somebody and you take a risk on them. I believe in that.
Yes. Wow. So, so looking back, you know, being the CEO of your company, what would you say is, you know, one big mistake you did make in time past that, you know, going back, you wouldn't have taken that route? Something you did probably starting out your career. That's one mistake looking back that you wouldn't, you know, make, knowing what you know now.
It's a good question, because we've made a lot of mistakes. For the first 2 years, it was like, you get this far, you get kicked in the nuts, and you're like, well, I'm not going to do that again. And you get a little bit further, and then you get kicked in the nuts again. And then you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that again, right? So it's like years of getting kicked in the nuts. I think one is not setting with your customers, not early enough, not really defining who our core customer was and what we were truly going after, and spreading ourselves so thin that we weren't able to like go after that one specific niche. Like, we got there eventually, but there's a lot of pain trying to be everything to everybody versus honing down and like focusing on just the things that we were truly good at. That would definitely be like one of the bigger mistakes we made in the beginning. That and not being decisive enough and we still struggle with that today. Like when you see a problem and you see a trouble sector, and you spend a lot of time analyzing and debating. And I believe that very fast, you know, decisions are generally better than like drawing it out. You know, indecision, the decision will just get made for you. So every problem we've had in the company has stemmed from us not being certain enough and making a very quick, hard decision.
Wow. You know, sometimes you could have problems, and you know, trying to get the perfect solution sometimes could, you know, play into you being indecisive, right? So sometimes, you know, should I go that way? You know, sometimes I do say I do take the first decision, but sometimes I always have this fear of not looking back and asking myself, did I take the right decision, or should I have waited? You know, sometimes it plays into, you know, indecisiveness.
Yeah, you never know what the outcome is going to be one way or the other. You know, you can go back and rerun it in your head, but I think it's better to gather as much information as you can and be decisive.
So I don't know if you're involved in the hiring process in your company, and if you do, what would it take? For example, me to come work in your company? What are the skill sets you're looking for? What's really the things you look out for when hiring? What qualifies someone to work, whether as a junior developer or as a senior developer? What really, you know, what gets me through the front door of your company?
I mean, our company, we take a lot of risks on people, and we hire a lot of people with non-traditional backgrounds. So there's quite a few people that have like civil engineering degrees or electrical engineering degrees, even math degrees, right? First and foremost, we look at people's ability to learn, you know, and people that are focused on learning, you know. I think that in itself is probably one of the most important traits. We still use a broad array of tech, and you can't just be a specialist most of the time, you know, because you might know a little bit of Android, but you might need to step in and do some iOS. And so you need to like have these mental frameworks and systems in place so you can take the concepts from one technology and apply it to the next. And I think just people that are able to like learn the system, I think is very important. Also, like, do people ask questions? People are afraid of asking questions because they don't want to reveal, you know, that they might not know. And honestly, in a lot of companies, you shouldn't. If you're a consultant, you shouldn't ask questions because they're paying you a lot of money and they expect you to be the expert, right? But when you're amongst your team, you need to be asking questions amongst your team members and have that level of trust and exposing yourself saying, hey, I don't know this. But here's the thing. You got to ask questions and keep asking the question until you understand it. A lot of people will ask questions as a crutch because they don't want to do the research or figure it out. And then a month later, they're going to ask the same question. And that's when you get into trouble. So ask questions with the intent to learn it and own it and be able to like answer the question if somebody asks you. I think that's truly one of the bedrock principles of what we try and like exude at Quarkworks. And then the last thing that we look at for individuals, there's two modes of work, right? One mode is I have my Jira tickets in front of me and I'm going to work on these Jira tickets, and the work has been laid out for me, right? So you're just consuming work. And that's like passive engagement and passive work. What moves projects forward at really fast speeds is active work, where you're doing the tickets, but you also understand where that project is going. Like, how do we get over this hill? What are the milestones we need to hit? So you're actively thinking, after I do this work, what do I need to do next to get us to our goal of launch, right? So you're actively thinking and coming up with a plan of what's next versus waiting for somebody to like think of the plan and give you the tickets, and you passively consume them, right? I much prefer engineers to actively be thinking about the whole problem, the whole product, what the goal is, and how the work I'm doing today actually contributes to getting the damn thing shipped, right? And that would be like another thing that we definitely look for.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's a great insight there. Sometimes you want to just wait till when you have your work and then you do it. Contrast that with being an engineer that's it's proactive. Okay, wow, what do we do to get a product like you said to launch?
Yep.
Very insightful. So, say for example, you have two qualified candidates, right? You're into employ, and all your interview process, the whole interview process, you have two people who are equally qualified. What would you consider what would be your determining factor in hiring one of them? Say the two of them are very qualified, the two of them are equally qualified.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's several stages, right? So generally speaking, what it comes down to is you do several rounds of interviews. We try and keep it pretty tight, and it varies based upon seniority. And at the end of the day, it's their managers or the person that would be leading the team that they work on, it's their call, right? So I like to, there's the bar that we set for engineers, and then the manager, let's say there's two candidates and the manager gets to pick, he's the one who has to, or she is the one that is going to be working with the candidate every day. And so they should have the final voting call and decision. And that's usually the tiebreaker, whoever the team lead is, and input from the team themselves. That way they've made the call, and then they're invested in the success of whatever candidate that they pick.
To everyone, by the way, if you have any questions for Bryan, feel free to raise up your hand. I'll do how to call you so that you ask him. If you are, alternatively, you could drop the question in the chat section below, and I'll do how to read them to him. Bryan, let me just say such an insightful meeting with you.
Now, yeah, you as well.
So what are some of the mistakes you've witnessed, more like junior developers make in your organization or wherever you've seen that, it's most frequent? What are some of the most frequent mistakes or traits you've observed in junior developers, people who are, entry-level developers? What are some of the most, frequent mistakes that you've witnessed among them?
That's a good question. I mean, look, again, I think when you're a junior developer, you're so focused on getting the ticket done and the speed that you don't slow down and understand what you're doing. There's a big difference between saying, okay, I really need to understand, do this thing, and I'm going to like sort of hack around and figure out how to patch it. And lots of Stack Overflowing. Maybe you read a Medium post or two, and then you get it done. That gets it done, but you really don't understand some of the underlying things. So sometimes it's best to slow down, read the documentation. I know it's boring as hell, but truly understand like what are the frameworks and what are several different ways of solving the problem, and be able to explain why the way you picked is the better one. Because that means you're truly getting an understanding of like the underlying bedrock of that technology. If you just solve the problem and move on, it's just surface level and you're not really learning, right? You learn a little bit, but you're not really understanding the depth to that. So slow down, make sure you understand. And then as your knowledge builds, you're going to increase in speed. And it's a compounding effect versus if you just like are like killing bugs left and right and doing features, you'll never improve.
There is that temptation to always make sure you're hitting the goal, to, be seen as the one who's always delivering on, his task or his or her task as a junior developer. And, I just like the way you're looking at it. So make sure you understand what you're really doing. Make sure you understand the documentation, what you're working, the technology you're working with, how it works, instead of contrast that with saying, for example, just copying codes from Stack Overflow or reading Medium articles and solving the problem.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the Navy SEALs or whatever, they have a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Wow.
So it's this, I think it's the same thing with engineering. It's the same thing with sales too.
Thank you very much. So I have one question from Tosin Oyedele. His question is, what are your views on work-life balance? What are your views on work-life balance? How do you hit the ideal mark everyone wants? And he's saying you want to be, good at what you do, right? At the same time, you want to live a healthy life, right? Earlier on when I got into tech, sometimes I do overwork myself, trying to be good, trying to be that, good that, everybody will want to work with you. And sometimes the effect of that is that you burn out, right? So you don't even find time to rest or enjoy, the little things of life. Yeah, so how do you maintain that balance between, trying to be good at the same time living a healthy life?
Burnout is real, right? And you want to avoid that. And there's a bunch of strategies you can employ, and it depends. You got to make a personal decision on what you want in life, right? And I believe we over-index on grinding, and like you rise up, you grind all day, you work, and that's not necessarily the way to do it. But on the flip side, when you're first starting out, I do not believe there's anything. I don't believe work-life balance exists, right? Especially when you're young, right? That is what you live for, is like investing and learning and getting better. And then as you get more experienced, you get more efficient with your work, and then you have like a family and everything. Then you have to start indexing, more for like working less and like spending time with people. And just, not constantly thinking about work. But it depends, if you're a CEO, you're founding a company, that's pretty much all you think about, right? You're going to say, this is this tiny little problem that I've picked and I'm spending 24/7 figuring out how to solve it. But burnout is real and you got to take breaks. Because, it's like, if you're staring at a screen and code is not coming to you, you're just wasting your time. So you gotta step back and reset.
Oh, nice one. So I did learn a lot from that, and I do hope Oyedele, you got your answer to that question. I did, by the way. So let me touch a little bit about leadership and the organization you're leading, right? So you're employing you have new employees. What are their processes because it's sometimes said that, or I've heard people say that culture sometimes is the unseen force that drives results.
Yes.
Cultures, some cultures, when you get into an organization, the culture sometimes is what, really indicates why they are successful. So are there things you do to integrate new employees to the company, or, more like, help them understand the culture?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? I agree with you. It's a perfect question. I agree with you. Culture drives success, right? If a team with strong culture can move mountains, right? And it's much easier to have strong culture when everybody's working together in the same office, because they're coming in, they're sitting together, they have a sense of like, we're on the team and this is the problem we're trying to solve. So a lot of our culture is like, we try and celebrate, doing great work, solving really hard engineering problems, and making sure that we always ship, we always deliver. So, and we set up teams so they are like autonomous units and clusters of developers working together, solving very targeted problems. And people get identity from that, working together as a team and seeing that success. And then it's like other things is like, it's not always about work, a large portion of it's about work, but it's definitely like making sure the team has time to go out and hang out with each other after hours or over lunch. We pay for team lunches, several times a week, making sure that they don't feel like they have to be chained to their desk working all the time, so we try and keep the office as flexible as possible, so that if you have a specific way you want to run your team and have that team, accomplish their goals, you can do it without us saying you have to do things very specific ways. And then people and teams have that sense of ownership where they're like, we get to make our own decisions. Very much the same way where we let the team leads decide who they want to hire after after they've been qualified. They own it.
Oh, very insightful. So my next question will be still around the leadership role. Yours being the CEO, how, in the tech industry, innovation and creativity, sometimes it's all that matters. Not really all that matters, but it's very important. You want your team, you want your organization to kind of be creative constantly. So how would you say as this really make sure you maintain that creativity? How do you help your team to stay creative? How do you help your organization to really how do you push, how do you motivate people, how do you train people to remain creative in your organization?
Well, yeah, the number one thing that kills creativity is having all right, so there's several different stages, to problem solving, but the first stage is like just getting ideas out. And as engineers, many times we focus on a new idea pops out and we immediately think of like all the things that have to be done to accomplish it. We're like, oh shit, that's going to be a lot of work. And so as an engineer, you have to sort of train yourself to think, let's not think about the work. Let's not think about all the obstacles. Let's think about, would this be interesting? And anybody who says something, even if it's off the wall, you're like, that's an interesting idea. And you add something to it. So you're always yes, and to any off the wall idea, it just anything. And you get people comfortable voicing their opinions, even though, they might think, oh, this is stupid, right? And that's where true innovation comes from, where people feel relaxed and comfortable enough where their ideas aren't going to get shot down and they don't feel judged, right? And everybody has to try and like contribute to the idea, right? Screenwriters in Hollywood, they use this process when they're coming up with plot lines and storylines and scripts, right? So you always want to make sure there's space for that before you get into the stage where you're like, okay, here's all the crazy ideas, which ones could work? You pick that, and then you go from there, right? To like execution phase, right? So getting people comfortable and making sure that you train your managers and your leads to not shoot down ideas, but always acknowledge the idea and then add something to it in the early stages is going to build rapport and allow you to like be more creative. I'd say that's probably the first thing. Second thing is, you know, from an engineering standpoint, we don't get to be that creative, right? Most of our creativity comes from something we did in code or an architecture we picked or, you know, something like that, right? But what kills that even somebody like being creative with their programming is when, let's say, a bug pops up or they make a mistake and you punish them for it, right? Because the minute, you know, or they're penalized or they're chastised or scolded for causing a bug or they're yelled at, you know, whatever, right? I mean, this happens all the time where people get upset because a bug happened or something broke, but you shouldn't do that too much. I mean, there's a fine line, but you should be like, okay, you took a risk, you tried something new. What did we learn from it? You know, when people feel like they have permission to fail, right? As long as they learn from it, they're going to take risks. And when they take risks, they move faster.
Yeah.
When you push back and you punish people for like causing a bug or a crash, or then you're griping about this quality, then people stop taking risks. People slow down. They start second guessing every single decision they do. They read their code 3 or 4 times. They try and make sure that they conform to the coding standards as much as possible so that they can't be yelled at, because nobody got yelled at for like following the approved pattern.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's hard. It's in consulting, it's hard to like have that mentality, right? The other organization has to share those same principles around development and creativity.
Oh, and things around creativity is always going to be a little bit difficult because you want things to go okay, but at the same time you want it to be creative, and being creative involves taking risks. And
Yes.
at the same time, you don't want things to break. You don't want somebody taking a risk that, you know, breaks everybody.
Amen. Amen, brother.
Yeah,
right?
I totally understand that.
You know,
that's where leadership comes in, right? So as a leader, you want to, you know, be the one to glue everyone together, create the rapport, at the same time, encourage a culture where people are free to express themselves, people are free to take risk. But at the same time, you don't want people to take risk.
I know, you know, like for the big clients, you know, there's like, you know, 100,000 daily active users.
Yeah.
Let's be careful, you know. But
yeah.
In the early days, you can take risk, right? Because there's maybe 8 users in a test flight.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So I have a question from Fonshojoba. His question is, if you could do anything different, what would that be?
It's interesting. Yeah, so we started Quarkworks because we wanted to build our own product. And we're like, this will give us an opportunity to learn all the skills and work with great startups and learn from them. And then we'll get enough cash in the bank and enough talent that we can build our own thing. And, you know, got sucked into consulting and building more and more and more. And I wish we had switched over to building our own product sooner. For the last year, we've been doing that, but I wish we had made that transition a little bit sooner.
Wow. I'm more like, you help people build your projects, but you should have also been into the business of building yours earlier on.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So I have another question from Emeka Okoma, and his question is, have you had times when you couldn't figure out solutions to a particular problem? How do you overcome that, and how do you overcome that imposter syndrome that, you know, hits you if it does, when you're not able to solve the problem?
Oh, I mean, imposter syndrome is real. I remember there's a very big publicly traded company, right? And this was in the early days of Quark, I think. Yeah, just like 5-6 years ago. And I remember the CTO is there, and he really liked us because he'd seen like some work we've done, and he met me for coffee. And I just remember just being so nervous, right? Because here's the CTO of this, hundreds of $1 million company, and I'm sitting next to him, and he's like, we're talking engineering. And I just remember, my heart rate was spiking. I was like, is he going to notice I'm nervous? Is he going to notice that we're just like, half of our employees at the time were still in school, right? So, and he's wanting us to come in and like, renovate some of their big apps. You just have to keep telling yourself that it's not about like the milestones you've made. It's like, do you fundamentally believe that you can solve the problem? And if you truly believe, you just keep telling yourself that, yeah, I know how to solve this problem. I know how to solve this better. It doesn't matter, the credentials of the other people, etc. It's like we're experts in this field and we know how to solve it. And being good at your work and truly knowing it at its core is going to give you the confidence. It's easier to say than to do, because you're still going to feel like nervous and
I guess.
Yeah,
but I did take the point where you have to know what you're doing. It helps, to the core of knowing what you do, and sometimes be the one to affirm to yourself that you could do this. I mean, you can do this. There's nobody better than yourself telling yourself that you could deliver, you could do this. Great one. Yeah. So my next question is still around more like leadership, right? So earlier on, I had somebody introduced. I was privileged to be introduced to a program. I think the name of the program is Global Leadership Summit, right? Where I attend that most times every year, and I did learn a lot, right? So my question is there any program or any organizations or anything, any resources you're affiliated to that you would say that, helps you to better yourself progressively? Something that you do continuously that you could say that over looking back, it's something that has always helped you to remain a leader and, be at your A game every time?
Yes, good questions. I'm not necessarily part of any organizations, but I read a lot of books, right? And I like to read a lot of, it's a combination of like maybe management books, like there's some like the classic ones like high output management, but then there's also other books like The Hard Thing About Hard Things, where the guy is just talking about all the mistakes he made in starting the company, all the things that went into like this struggle and failure, because everybody writes about their success. Everybody has a story about their success and how, they won. And, it's great, but nobody learns from that. Behind every success, there's 1,000 failures. And I think earlier that the question was like hard problems and how did you solve them,
Yes.
That's really what I try and find in books, is like CEOs and founders that are writing about the struggles and the hard times and how they thought through them. And that gives you courage, because you're like, these people they had adversity and they had hard things that they were trying to solve, and they came out ahead. And that right there, and it gives you a sense of optimism. And I think the thing about being a leader is having a sense of optimism. I think you always have to have a sense of, no matter what's going on, no matter the amount of fires that you're dealing with every day, that it's going to be better the next day. We are going to solve this problem. We are going to figure this out, and we're going to be better for it. And I try to do my best to like keep myself in that mental framework.
Well, so no, I can't tell you how much of an investment for time this has been for me. Some of the resources you've said, can you, if you're to recommend some of the resources to someone who is, wanting to be a better leader, someone who is probably wanting to get to your position or possibly be better, which of the resources, what would you say you recommend? It could be books, it could be programs. What would you recommend to someone who is starting out as a leader and wants to really be good?
Yeah, definitely. High Output Management, the book 0 to 1, and The Hard Things About Hard Things. Those would be 3 books that I absolutely would recommend. And then you know, try and the other thing, actually, this is the most powerful thing, is like try and find other founders that are solving the same problem as you. I mean, just like this, you'd be surprised. Like if you reach out to somebody who's kind of in the same space as you, even if they're a competitor, they will sit down with you and talk through problems, you know, and you can learn from them. Founders are extremely generous with their time when it comes to other founders.
Yeah, I really get that. So my next question would be still around leadership. Before I really leave that area, because it's such an opportunity to be here with you. Say, what would you say would be the mistakes you observe startups do, right? So you're into sometimes taking startups products to the marketplace. What would you say is the common mistakes you've seen? Because I want to believe you might have witnessed some startup maybe really didn't succeed, who they really didn't succeed. So what would you say are some of the mistakes you've observed that didn't make that eventually maybe derailed their success, or sometimes maybe eventually was the factor that's, you know, dragged the nail to the coffee?
Ooh. That's a tough one. So a lot of times with startups and engineering, there's this debate where should we build fast and junky code, right, to get the product, to get to launch, or should we stand back and build the perfect architecture to get to launch? And it's a coin flip. I've seen both, right? I've seen people that, you know, it's like a freight train rolling down the tracks at 100 miles an hour and the wheels are coming off, and, you know, the engineers are trying to duct tape the wheels back on the train, but it's still going 100 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the beauty of it. And I've also seen that with extremely well architected companies where, you know, everything's great, but, you know, they're still moving fast. So honestly, I don't think it matters too much how much quality engineering you have in the beginning. I think what matters is enough where it's versatile enough that you don't lock yourself into any single paradigm so that you can iterate quickly, right? So technology, I don't think matters. It's the ability to structure things so you can iterate quickly. And so the sooner you launch, the better off you're going to be. I mean, you got to get everybody wants to spend all this time building out all the peripherals of a product, right? From like complicated logins to like user accounts and settings and all that. And yes, you need those, but the startups that I've seen that really take off are the ones where they had just this one thing and they found out really quickly that the one thing that people were just loving their product for, even though it crashed 50% of the time. Right? Some of the best products we've worked on, you know, they had bugs where they were crashing 50% of the time for users, right? So every other time they launch an app, you know, it wouldn't work the way you wanted, but they were still using it because they had so much value out of that thing. And honestly, it is a contrarian point of view, but I think if you have a buggy product that people still want to use because of that one feature, that's even more validation for that product, because you can always go back and re-architect it and get rid of the bugs, right? Versus if you have the perfect product, but nobody's really using it, even though there are no bugs, that's not a great sign. So I think if you truly find that thing that people are using, even though it's broken, then you just lean into it. And some people get lucky and they find it like very quickly, and some people don't, right? But I will also say the people that get lucky and find it soon, they have like 5 other startups that they failed at before, like, you know, they're like, oh, let's build this one feature, and they launch it and it's sticky, right? But nobody talks about the 5 failures. They're like, oh, they launched in like 6 weeks and then they just raised, you know, 100 million in funding, right? And you're like, oh, it's that easy. No, it's not that easy. But yeah, get the thing that I've seen is like getting your product to market as soon as possible, even if it's semi-buggy or unfinished, and then be able to quickly iterate and change things around to try and figure out what is the thing that really, really is sticky and users love, and then just pile in on that.
Wow. Oh.
But I
So
could be
have
wrong.
another
You know, I've been on the engineering side of it, right? So this is purely an engineer's perspective, right? But that's just some of the patterns that I've noticed.
I mean, in your position, you could notice a lot.
I speak with
Yes.
conviction, even though I probably don't know what I'm talking about.
So I have with me another, gradually coming to the end of the meeting. So I have another question, maybe the last one from the audience. His question is from Emeka Okoma again. He said, "Hi, Bryan. As a CEO, there will always be a problem to solve and people to manage. How do you find time to unwind, and what do you actually do to relax?"
Well, it depends. I love beer. Love beer. You know, you can't do too much of that because you got to be productive the next day. But the thing I find, like, that question is truly right, because at the end of the day, you're just so wound, you're thinking about your problems, and then you can't spend quality time with your family or, you know, do anything else. It takes time to unwind. The best thing I found that I personally love to do is some sort of cardio or working out, right? So at the end of the day, I try and either lift weights, or I like to ride my bike. And so I'll go for like a fairly stiff bike ride, get the cardio running, and then you just, at the end of it, it's like a mental reset, and you're able to transition into something that's not work. So exercise at the end of the day is pretty much essential for me.
Wow. So maybe the last questions. Briefly, okay, I think there's still more time for that. So what would what should we engineers, probably in training or coming into the tech space as junior developer, what should we focus on? What should we really focus on coming into the tech space?
It's tough, right? It depends on like the customers you want. If you're going for big Fortune 500s, it's very much so like the Microsoft, Sharp, .NET stacks, right? If you're going towards younger tech companies, but still large tech companies, you know, you're a little bit more on the cutting edge of stuff, right? So I think there's a lot. I mean, just looking at your stack, I think you're already there. Kotlin is great. You know, Swift is great. Flutter for cross-platform, I see a lot of potential with Flutter cross-platform. A lot of other things, like, and a lot of the problems we're trying to solve today are kind of interesting. They have to do with video, WebRTC. So there's a huge demand for WebRTC engineers right now, and there's just not enough. Absolutely not enough. And it's a really hard thing to learn because it's a hard stack, and then a lot of it's written in C++, right? So, but that we're always like looking for WebRTC people. And then on the flip side is like machine learning. I think there's a lot of potential there, but that's a very large mountain to climb to build up your internal tech stack and your tooling for machine learning. But I definitely see that that's the future wave, and it's coming.
So Bryan, thank you very much. It's such a great opportunity to be here with you, and thank you for doing this. I will briefly call on Ruth Onoka to do a vote of thanks. I've learned a lot today from you, and such a wonderful time.
I appreciate you being such a great interviewer and asking thoughtful questions. So thank you.
So Ruth, I think you're mute. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm sorry about that. Hi, Bryan. My name is Ruth.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to say thanks a lot for giving out time to actually come to mentor us, yeah, junior developers. Yeah, I really learned a lot. I'm sure many of us have also learned a lot. Like my book is full actually. Like I didn't even have a space to write anymore. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, really appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it too. So thank you all for taking the time. And so that's yeah, it's cool. It's cool what you're doing. I think it's neat. You know, investing in people, teaching them the program. It's the way of the future. It truly is.
You're muted, Emeka Paul.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm just going to say that we're grateful. I think everyone is, you could see people, you know, saying things in the comment sections. Thank you very much for doing this. We look forward to, you know, probably, you know, having another nice time video like this again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Probably working with you too.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. See ya.